Hi everyone, my name is Amijah Collins and I will be doing my presentation on budgets and cost control in healthcare. So the article that I chose was titled Labor Budget Increases, Staffing Shortages Loom Large for Healthcare Executives in 2019. Majority of execs say they face increases in their labor budgets and staffing shortages are worse this year than last. I picked this article because I feel like it was important. It kind of stood out to me that we're seeing staffing shortages that are worse this year than last year, and it's only April of 2019, so it's still kind of early in the year. But for those who don't know what a labor budget is, a labor budget is the budget that's used to calculate the labor hours that are needed in a certain department or area in a healthcare facility, such as hospitals. And it's also used for anticipating the number of employees that will be needed to staff that particular area. So it really could help administrators and supervisors and managers, in their hiring process, so they make sure they don't overhire people or underhire people. So essentially, this article was just telling the readers about how there is a healthcare staffing shortage, but there's an increasing need for healthcare staff as, people get sicker nowadays, and well, that's not really a word, but as people get more sick, they're requiring more care, especially in like hospitals. I know that just personally speaking, a lot of people go to hospitals for things like emergency rooms, for things that they really don't need to go to the hospital for. But still, once you're a patient, you are entitled to receive care. I know that one problem with the hospital, especially the hospital in my area, one of the biggest problems is getting someone to see you in a timely fashion because they are so understaffed. So an emergency room visit could really be at least 6 hours before you even see a doctor, before you even understand what's going on with you, and it could be something minor. So I know that if it's a problem here, it's probably a problem in other areas of the country as well. But one of the managing directors of an organization essentially said that the need to manage the labor by staffing will intensify as time goes on. So that's pretty much all they were speaking about. I like the fact that they included percentages because it says that physician and nurse shortages are the most prominent right now, with 35% of executives saying that their physician shortages are worse compared to last year, and then 43% are saying that their nursing shortages are worse than last year. I know that it says that some execs did see improvements within our organization, but these percentages are significantly smaller compared to the percentages where people were saying that they are having shortages in their hospitals or healthcare organizations. One thing I didn't like, back to what I did like how they mentioned that staff retention efforts will be increasingly important to minimize the costs associated with turnover. So basically they're saying that they want to try to keep their staff so that they don't quit, because once you don't have staff, you have things that need to be done and they can't be done if there's no one to do them, or if you have someone that's doing 1,000,001 tasks, something may not get done. And when it comes to healthcare, that is very important. That is the number one important thing, especially when it comes to being in a hospital. You have to take care of the patient, and no matter what is going on, let's just say there's a nurse that has maybe assigned maybe 10 patients at once, and you have a patient. I know they go by priority and like what's more important, but say a test needs to be done, it may not get done because there's no staff to order these tests. And when it comes to hospitals, that should be taken seriously because you're playing with people's lives. So it could be the case to where a person can't order a test, but it's important and detrimental to their health. So it could cause another problem, or it could potentially be fatal if they don't test and see what's going on in time. But one thing that I did not like about this article was that it didn't offer any suggestions. It did, but the suggestions that they offered were not really feasible, I guess. It wasn't really much They said that offering flexible schedules, wellness programs, and other perks may be worth the investment if the return is less turnover. But you also have to keep in mind that there is a certain budget that is approved, and most of the time it's a multi-year budget. So it's really hard to budge and have wiggle room on that budget. It's almost impossible. So I got some questions for you guys. Well, basically, let me discuss how the article ties. Well, okay. In my questions, I'm going to discuss how the article ties in with our text. So I'm also going to post these questions in a bullet or number format so that you all know what the questions are, because after I say a question, I'm probably going to talk about it. So the first question is, what do you believe will be more effective, transferring tasks to less qualified staff members or transferring staff to another position? So basically we're discussing how to kind of control your staff and control if you need to hire more, which will require more money in a budget, or if you need to hold on to your staff, which, you know, of course you need to do. Now, when I say less qualified staff members, I don't say like I don't mean like staff members that don't have the education. I'm speaking more so about experience. So say, let me see, what's an example? Okay, so say you have a staff member who has an associate's degree in radiology, and then you have a staff member that has a master's degree in radiology. Would you rather transfer various tasks to the less qualified staff member, the one with the associate's degree, or would you rather transfer staff to another position? So would you rather have that staff member go to another position that may possibly help with another aspect of the organization, or like help in another unit, and just have the master's degree staff, you know, take care of everything? I guess that kind of ties into when it talks in our book, it speaks about controlling overtime. So like I said, if you do transfer these tasks to someone who has a master's degree, it may require them to work a little longer because they have more tasks to complete. But I know that one of the approaches that they spoke about in the book was the possibility of cross-training employees. So I don't know how that would work, but I mean, I know that there are some employees who don't want to be cross-trained. I know I had an interview today to where someone said, well, the manager told me that a lot of people, I asked about his retention rates, and he said that they're not very high, but they have lost staff because they asked their staff to go to another position or be trained in another position, and they were upset because they were comfortable with where they were and they didn't want to be trained. They wanted to stay in the position that they were in for whatever reason because they were comfortable and they knew what they were doing, which is understandable, but it still could, you know, cause a problem later on. The other question that I have is, how would you handle an employee that is requesting more hours but has refused to be cross-trained in another position? So that's why I kind of rambled about cross-training, because like I said, the labor budget pretty much lays out the anticipated number of employees and the anticipated hours that are needed in a certain department. But you have an employee that, you know, has things going on, like, you know, normal people, and wants more hours. And there's a need for staff, or there's a need for some staff to do some tasks in a different unit or a different department, and they don't want to do it because they're comfortable in their position. So I would want to know how you all would handle that, because I know that, like I said, it was mentioned in this book, well, in our book, about how cross-training staff members may be beneficial to control overtime and control the budget, essentially. And then I also wanted to know, tell me about a time where you had to take on more duties than what was expected of you in your job description, and how did you feel about that? Because we've been discussing, you know, how managers should most definitely care about their employees and listen to their concerns. So I want to know if you all have had any experience with this, and how did that affect you? How did you feel about it? Were you upset about it? Did you just want to stay in your position? Were you just comfortable with that? Or were you willing to help out in other departments or other areas that you were needed in? That's also important. Okay, well, like I said, I'm going to post them so that you all can see the questions without hearing me ramble. But thanks for listening, and I hope you all have a great day.